doggy. Sorry, they had to deal with all that technical difficulties. Matt was a little stressed out before we hit the button, and he had to remind himself, why am I stressed out? We're in open water Bitcoin right now.
Feels good. It's the best.
It really is. Go to sleep, Bitcoin's at 115. You wake up, it's at 118.
You know, Jevi messaged me twice, making sure that the title for this week was going to be Open Water Bitcoin. And Jevi, you didn't have to give me any reminders. Like, what do you think I was going to title the episode?
It's open water Bitcoin. And how would you describe this this instance of open water Bitcoin?
What do you mean?
I mean, we talked about it earlier this year, but this one feels different than the one that was earlier this year.
How so?
It feels like a cleaner break. It feels like we've been coiling for the first 6 months of the year, and this is a breakout of a coil that was in a rather broad range between like 75 and 110. Now we're above it.
Are you talking about the last open water Bitcoin? You're talking about the election cycle.
Yeah.
The election pump?
Yeah. Nostr's not working.
I think, yeah, Zapstream's down after all of that fucking shit that we just troubleshooted.
Is Zapstream just not working? Or is it our thing?
Hopefully it'll come back up. No, I think Zapstream's not working. I'll message Kieran. Straight to the CEO.
No, this feels we were talking about it this morning, but Stakwork, credible Bitcoiner, he tweeted out this chart. It looks like we're now a TA podcast, by the way, freaks, but Logan, pull it up. It looks like we broke some multi-year resistance going all the way back to 2017.
I mean, draw all the lines you want on the fucking chart. I just stay home and stack sats about it. I mean, I think we coiled before the election one. Like, that's the classic Bitcoin. You coil, people get bored of the stability and the lack of volatility, and then you break in one direction or the other, right? And when we break to the upside, it's the better feeling break.
Yes, it really is. I'm feeling content. We're pumping right now. I went out and got a beach pump earlier. Did my 2.5 mile walk. Do push-ups and air squats every 10 blocks. Double the reps at the turn. So I'm feeling pretty good right now. Bitcoin's pumping. You got to get your personal pump in too. Don't let this be an excuse to get complacent, to get lazy, to not take care of your health.
So Kieran responded to me, the maintainer of Zapstream, and he said, "I don't know. I'm on holiday."
Come on, is he European? Is he European?
I'm not gonna dox him.
Just using the frame holiday. We don't really use that. It's Europeans. I get it. You like to enjoy your summers. I do too. I was just on the beach, but you can mix a little work and pleasure at the same time. We got open water Bitcoin, and we were expecting a lot of zaps today, and due to the maintainer being on holiday, we're shit out of luck.
I haven't been on fucking holiday for fucking decade, Kieran. If holiday includes just turning everything off for a week, it hasn't happened in a decade.
No.
Well, work hard, play hard. I'll use this as a reason to further prioritize video streaming on Primal. We'll make it happen, freaks. For now, just enjoy the good vibes.
They are good vibes. With that, let's go to Clark's dashboard. Let's set the base for open water Bitcoin by checking in on the state of the network. We're currently looking at a Bitcoin price of 117,300 cuckbucks. One cuckbuck, not getting you as many sats as it was earlier this week. Under 900, 853 sats per cuckbuck. We're at a $2.33 trillion market cap. We are at block height 905,096. which means we are currently 88 blocks, less than 1 day away from the next difficulty readjustment, which is estimated to be 7.4%, and that should happen some point after midnight tonight here on the East Coast of the United States. There are currently 14,780 transactions in Clark's mempool. If we go over to mempool.space, we'll see that there are 14,784 transactions. Fees pumping, prices going up, people transacting, people moving coins to OTC desk because they're running out of them. I hear the OTC desk are paying a premium for Bitcoin right now because they're running dry. Kidding. But high priority transactions, you're going to need to attach a 6 sat per V-byte fee to that transaction. Medium priority, 5 sats per V-byte. Low priority, 4 sats per V-byte. So a little action in the mempool here as the price spikes.
Little action. Fees are cheap as hell. Definitely got that call wrong on mempools. Will never clear again, but I'm enjoying the cheap fees because I actually transact Bitcoin. I am glad I listened to my wife when she told me not to re-up our bet. She said enough is enough, Matt. So shout out her.
And you look like you're about to make a clean sweep of this year's bets. We paid one out earlier this week.
I've been recouping my costs. Marty lost the SBR bet. There has not been a strategic Bitcoin reserve build yet. And what's the next one? The next one is Tether getting Bitfinex getting their money back.
I have 4 days. 4 days. Anybody in the government? Anybody in the government who's listening to this, I know you all listen and watch. Let's get Bitfinex their seized coins back in the next 4 days so I can win this bet.
We need to vibe code a dashboard of the RHR bet tracker.
I can't. That's not. I'll vibe code that at some point.
Yeah, we'll I think we could. I think we could one shot prompt that rhr.tv/bets. Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. We should definitely do that. Marty was joking around, by the way. Like any tweets you see that say OTC desks are running out of Bitcoin is engagement bait. OTC desks will never run out of Bitcoin. It's just the price you might have to pay for that Bitcoin might be substantially higher. That's how markets work. There's plenty of Bitcoin to go around, just maybe not at the price you want.
What are you talking about? One of the OTC desks reached out to me today asking if I had any Bitcoin I wanted to sell at a premium.
And the other thing is anyone who's tweeting like, oh, who's selling at this price? Literally every trade is a buyer and a seller. There's always buyers when we're dumping, and there's always sellers when we're pumping. That's how markets work as well.
During the pump, there's more buyers than sellers, and during the dump, there's more sellers than buyers. It's as simple as that. Keep it simple, stupid.
It really does feel like, I don't know. I think the suit started to get cocky with the lack of price volatility, and it does feel like there's a bunch of shorts that are offside. Whether that's on the Bitcoin stock side, on the actual Bitcoin spot side, the Bitcoin future side. Like I feel like there's a lot of shorts offside right now and people are scrambling. But it's hard to imagine a better setup for Bitcoin in terms of bullishness right now. Like I woke up with a pep in my step. Vibes are really high. I want to play this. Where did I have this clip?
While you're looking for that clip, 88 Sats Radio is asking what happens when people take loans against their Bitcoin instead of selling. At some point, the demand won't be able to keep up with available coins. I would say to that, be careful. We've mentioned this many times in the last few months. If you're going to use your Bitcoin as collateral to take out a US dollar loan, number one, don't use a small fraction of your Bitcoin. Number two, make sure you can afford the carrying cost of that loan, making sure that you can either pay the monthly payment or the lump sum payment at the end of the loan term. And number three, in the context of this question, there will people who make mistakes on the first 2 points there and get offsides and or become forced sellers at some point in the future.
Yeah, I mean, to put a number to it, I would put don't consider 10% of your stack as the upper bound. You know, if you're borrowing more than 10% of your total Bitcoin size, I think you're taking overwhelming risk, and you should be careful with it. Ideally, and that's a tax arbitrage strategy more than anything, is how I think people should think about it. You don't want to pay 20 to 30% cap gains, maybe higher if you live in a hellhole like California, and so instead you take out a loan to pay for your expenses because you're all in Bitcoin. And I've said it in the past, but I think Strike is the best place to do that. We are their largest investor at 1031. So there's your disclosure. We sit on their board. We're the only board seats besides Jack. We're very involved with that business. But I see it behind the scenes, and it's just a really good product. And they're very responsible about it. But Strike doesn't do a credit check. If Strike did a credit check, maybe we would, Strike doesn't want to know the total balance you have. But if we did, I think the advice would be don't do more than 10% of your stack.
Yeah. Logan, you want to pull up this video?
But before you do that, that idea, once again, like the way markets work is if people don't want to sell at a certain price, the price will go up. Remove this fantasy from your head that there'll never be any Bitcoin available to buy. That is not the reality of the situation. Price will just gap upwards till someone's willing to sell, till people are willing to sell. That's how it works.
Yes. And I've been recording quarterly episodes with James Check, and I was joking earlier when I said we're TA analyst, and I wouldn't consider James at Check on Chain a TA analyst either. He really dives into the on-chain data. And our last episode, he basically said it feels like we're coiling about the spring, and the levels he was looking at were like 125 to 150. That's where he believes a lot of long-term holders would be willing to part with their coin. So take that with a grain of salt. Not saying that's going to happen, but there's a lot of data
price?
Between 125 and 150.
Where did he come up with that fucking number?
I was looking at the short-term hodler index, which is what usually drives a lot of these short-term to medium-term flows.
Okay, well, I think it's an educated guess at best.
Yes, I would agree. I would
I mean,
agree
look,
with that.
there's a bunch of us living all in on Bitcoin. And if you don't want to go the loan route, if you want to be risk adverse and conservative, which is historically the best path to take, to be as humble as possible, then you have to sell. You have to sell when you have expenses. And whether that's actually buying stuff directly with Bitcoin or selling for fiat and spending the fiat on Bitcoin, you have to sell. You have no choice. We also see the overwhelming majority of our portfolio companies are keeping the overwhelming majority of their cash on hand in Bitcoin instead of cash. And when they have business expenses, they have to sell. They have no choice. You see that with miners too, obviously, whose revenue is denominated in Bitcoin and comes in as sats, and they need to pay fiat costs. So a lot of this is complete speculation. But it does feel like we are in the early innings of a bull cycle right now.
You're about to say super cycle. I could feel
Not
it.
a super cycle. No, because you guys are just going to keep moving the goalposts on what a super cycle means. I think this is an elongated cycle. And part of that reason is because of the flows that go into Bitcoin stocks. Like if you buy MSTR common stock, it takes a while for that to actually get into Bitcoin. And if you look at like retail interest, even just anecdotally, there's not the level of retail interest we've seen in blow off tops in the past, but it will get here eventually. And then when people are all like, when complete consensus is super cycle, and then we're not going to have dumps again, the massive degeneracy that builds up in a long bull run will expose itself and then we'll drop. And a bunch of you will say like, oh, we didn't drop enough, it's still a super cycle. But if you're going to argue that, then the semantics are we've been in a super cycle since the dawn of Bitcoin. We've just been in one long ass bull cycle.
I like to thank you for bringing it up. We didn't cover it last week or the week before, but to this point, talking about MicroStrategy and the publicly traded companies, there was one headline and piece of news that came out in recent weeks that actually makes me incredibly bullish. I'm sure you saw it, but Figma, which is a very popular tool for developers and particularly UI UX designers, they are going public and they issued an S9. So if you go public, you have to publicly disclose your financials as you go through the process. They did that. And on their balance sheet, we became aware that they have $70 million of, I believe, IBIT, the Bitcoin ETF. And they had a note in their filings that they plan on buying $30 million worth of spot Bitcoin at some point in the near future, too. I believe the last valuation that Figma had was $10 billion. So they have a 70 million going up to $100 million exposure soon. So that's 1% of that company's market cap is in Bitcoin. And I just thought that was an incredibly bullish signal. Figma, I believe, one of the stats they threw out is that it's used by 95% of Fortune 500 companies, incredibly profitable, incredibly sticky, and their founding team, their board, decided that it was worthwhile to stack Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and we weren't made aware of that until they went to go public. So Figma, I would consider probably one of the darlings of Silicon Valley, San Francisco, particularly from a design tool perspective, stacking Bitcoin. And I wonder how many others of that caliber of private company are doing that as well outside of what is common in the Bitcoin space and within the 1031 portfolio. Like, is that becoming more common? And not only that, with the news of Figma becoming public, does that send a signal to others of their caliber, like, hey, maybe we should be stacking Bitcoin too? And as we all know, Silicon Valley is the land of copycats and dick measuring. And so is there some sort of flywheel that gets incited by Figma announcing this, that it just becomes common knowledge in Silicon Valley that all these startups and pre-public, pre-acquisition companies should be stacking Bitcoin?
Yeah, we've seen it firsthand. Startups that hold profits in Bitcoin have a lot more flexibility on when they choose to raise and what path they want to take. It's really a superpower, and I think more people will wake up to it. But it also adds a very interesting investor dynamic, particularly if you're not a Bitcoin investor, if you're not a Bitcoiner first, because you end up in this situation where a lot of our portcos have Bitcoin holdings that are more than they've ever raised in the past. They're profitable now. And as a result, they don't necessarily need to raise unless the terms make complete sense to them. Like that, unless they're completely advantageous terms, there's no reason for them to raise another round. And the way private investing works is all the valuations are very illiquid and they're based on each round you have. So, for instance, in 1031 right now, our the current fund that we have has exposure to a bunch of companies that are presumably valued significantly higher than the actual market is valuing them right now, because they haven't raised a price round in a bit, because they can just sit and be profitable and add to their treasuries. So it should be interesting watching that dynamic play out as more people start to become aware of it.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do venture talk right now too, but like that's a dynamic that is new and foreign to traditional VCs because, like Matt said, they want to continuously get these companies marked up so they can show paper gains to their investors and continue raising money. And it's it's a good problem for us to have because, as Matt mentioned, a lot of the companies haven't gone back to market because they don't need to. But that's sort of our thesis: is partner with these companies, help them grow the business, get profitable, stack as much Bitcoin, and obviously the funds will benefit, but it's also very founder friendly in the sense that this model enables you to really grow the business and not have to dilute yourself, and make sure that you can get out the other side of building a successful business and ultimately monetizing it with owning a larger percentage than most founders running the typical VC model.
We're live on Zapstream again. He took a break from his holiday because
Thank you
I
for
was a
getting
little
back
bit.
to work. Thank you for getting back to
I,
work, Kieran.
I was a little bit mean. I love you,
What did you
Kieran.
say? What did you say?
They were under DDoS, so he did something to mitigate it. I guess having a denial of service attack against it is a bullish signal. But yeah, rhr.tv/stream. rhr.tv/stream is live now. Sorry about that, freaks. We're figuring it out as we go.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I made a list, but we can just shout out ourselves for the rest of the episode if we want, instead of going through the list. Oh,
Pull up the video. No, we don't have to
pull
shout
up the
out
video.
ourselves.
Let's play this video.
No, because we've been talking a lot about this behind the scenes this week, because Matt's become a big TBPN fan, and he's been texting me about like, how did they not get Bitcoin?
Dude, they really don't understand it at all. Like, I was listening. They had David Marcus on 2 days ago, and they asked him if USDC can be frozen, which is just like, holy shit, we're retardedly early. Like, if that's a question that you're actually asking at this point, we still got our edge, fam. Anyway, play the clip.
BRICS was set up to degenerate our dollar and take our dollar as the standard, take it off as the standard. And that's okay if they want to play that game, but I can play that game too. So anybody that's in BRICS is getting a 10% charge.
Is that immediate, sir? Or
Yeah,
is that
pretty soon.
if they engage in some behavior?
Well, if they're a member of BRICS, they're going to have to pay 10% tariff just for that one thing. And they won't be a member long. I thought BRICS was, I said this about a year ago, and it largely broke up. But, there are a couple that hang around, but I thought it largely broke up. BRICS is not, in my opinion, not a serious threat. But what they're trying to do is destroy the dollar so that another country can take over and be the standard. And we're not going to lose the standard at any time. If you have a smart president, you will never lose the standard. If you have a stupid president like the last one, you would lose the standard. You wouldn't have the dollar as you. And if we lost the world standard dollar, that would be like losing a war, a major world war. We would not be the same country any longer. We're not going to let that happen. The dollar, you ever hear the expression, dollar is king? The dollar is king. We're going to keep it that way, okay? And I'm just saying, if people want to challenge it, they can, but they're going to have to pay a big price. And I don't think any of them are willing to pay that price.
Donnie, sats are going to be the standard, and it's going to be good for you, and it's going to be good for America. Americans own the most Bitcoin per capita in the world. Most Bitcoin businesses started here. We've got industry. The dollar's dying. It's dying. You can try to hold on to it, but it's going to be futile. You should embrace the SAT standard. It will put America at an incredible advantage.
The clip needed to be played. Just this moment in time, Bitcoin sitting at all-time highs, and the sitting president of the United States is talking about the risk of the dollar losing the reserve currency status of the world, and not mentioning Bitcoin, but mentioning a BRICS competitor. Just seems like chef's kiss. And no one wants to say the quiet part out loud. But I mean, I will just second everything Marty said. Bitcoin will be the standard. It'll be good for America. And very few people see it coming.
Yeah. And we talked about this many years during COVID when the BRICS oil war started. And I think 2020, 2021 is when they started having like really earnest meetings talking about monetary order. And that's also like a sign of weakness too. Like it's not, I feel like arguing, the president of the United States arguing against the BRICS currency is a sign of weakness, because there's no way that a BRICS currency will be able to compete at all. If you think that those BRICS countries can coordinate and agree on something as important as fostering the world reserve currency, I think you're extremely naive.
I mean, that's the old world. If in a non-Bitcoin world, maybe reserve currencies come and go. They have, there's that chart that always goes around of the different reserve currencies through time and going between different countries. But now we have. I'm just laughing at Kieran's DMs. Now we have a signal message. Now we have an actual neutral currency, a neutral money that's not controlled by anybody, that's not controlled by any government. It's the best money that's ever existed in all time. And people are slowly coming to the realization. We can scream it from the rooftops, but most people just are still blissfully unaware of it. And it's just a beautiful moment in time. I just want to shout out Brian.
This is
Fortunately,
massive.
we got Zapstream back up and going. Thank you, Kieran. Brian zapped us 1 million sats. Says open water Bitcoin means staying humble with stack sats, unless you send the fattest zap ever. So shout out me. Shout out Logan and Odell's new mic. Thank you for continuing to spread signal and lose money. Come rocket, come rocket, come rocket.
I hope Cum Rocket's just like an implicit shout out to me too, Brian. But thank you for the zap.
He kind of left you out except for the cum rocket part. I did get a nice new mic for the freaks though. So
it sounds great. On top of that, I'm getting his NPub. I'm not going to read NPub 1U8UM HXC zap 21,000 10 sats. Time for the ride or dies to bask in the glory. And we got Paulie zapping 21,000 sats. Open water Bitcoin. Let's fucking go.
Thank you, freaks. Love you all. By the way, the MPub you read, his name is Sovereign. Sometimes you have to refresh to get because it pulls from the relays. You got to refresh to get the name.
Let's get to the list. We do have a list to talk about. There was a lot of, I think I got 3 texts about this article this week, and I'm sure many of you who are listening saw this during 4th of July. There was a very old wallet that moved 80,000 Bitcoin, I believe in 10,000 Bitcoin chunks to a number of wallets. Many people were surmising, speculating that it was Roger Ver. Others were speculating that it was an early miner. And some were speculating, which is the link that we have here, that pay to pub key hash had been compromised and somebody had brute forced the private key and moved the Bitcoin, hacked the or not hacked, but stole the Bitcoin, if you will. And this is the link that was sent to me multiple times, and certainly very very appealing. But I think Matt, the 1031 account, put it very succinctly earlier this week, that it's probably, I doubt that pay to pub key hash was broken.
We first of all, this feels like old news at this point.
Yes.
Which is hilarious, but it was the weekend's FUD, so I felt like we needed to cover it. This article that I put in the show notes is just very in-depth and very speculative, and you probably don't need to read it, but they did go through a bunch of theories. First of all, the Roger Ver speculation is legit. Just like one account on X was like, it's Roger, I'm 99% sure. And then all the breaking news accounts were like, it's Roger. Probably wasn't Roger. It would be my gut. I hope whoever it is remains anon. Like, I think this obsession with trying to dox any old coins that move is one that should burn in a fire. But probably won't, and people are just obsessed with trying to do that. I saw other speculation that it was Elon Musk, retarded, but the speculation is out there. I would just say to people, it's pretty cool that we don't know who it is. And it's pretty cool that they could move $8 billion outside of market hours without permission. But the most obvious explanation is that someone who had Bitcoin in 2011 waited this long to upgrade their wallet security, and they were long overdue to do it. Like, I don't think people realize what the state of Bitcoin was in 2011. Seed words weren't standardized. They didn't exist yet. There were no hardware wallets. Like, this wallet was likely generated on an internet connected computer using Bitcoin Core, which was called Bitcoin QT back then.
Saved in the
And
wallet.dat file.
yeah, it's saved on a digital file, and drives can get corrupted, right? So he probably had it backed up in multiple places. And it was time to upgrade. It was time to upgrade and secure that holdings. And it really was probably time to do that 3 or 4 years ago, if not earlier than that. But it finally happened. There's been no signs that this person is trying to sell. So that was also a heavy dose of FUD. And at this point, like, the market is quite mature. So maybe there'd be a little bit of panic selling if he tried to sell, but in the medium to long term, it'd be incredibly easy to absorb. The market would absorb that very easily. So yeah, I think it was mostly a distraction. People freaked out about it, speculated very heavily, and I just thought we should cover it.
Yeah. No, another thing James brought up during our last conversation, at some point last year, during the run-up post-election, the market was absorbing like 40,000 Bitcoin a day that were being sold. So like this 80,000 Bitcoin, I think that's what a lot of people miss, is the scale of the market right now and the market cap. Like, even though it's $8 billion worth of Bitcoin, like, the market is very mature, very liquid, and there could potentially be a small sort of dump in price if they did come to market, but I think there's plenty of demand out there to absorb all of that.
Yeah. Kieran wants everyone to know that he just got home like 30 minutes ago.
Oh, nice.
And you're welcome.
All right, go back on holiday, Kieran. Enjoy it. Thank you. Thank you for your help. I kid.
Soap Miner zapped us 21,000 sats. Thank you, Soap Miner. Best soap in the business.
I just took a shower, used the soap, washed my body, washed my hair. I think it's doing wonders for my hair. My hair looks, I've been using it for like 3 weeks on the hair as my shampoo. It's been great.
Reminds me of when Tucker said that Zyn solves erectile dysfunction, and they sent him a cease and desist.
They really?
Yeah, that's why he created his own nicotine brand, was because of the Zyn cease and desist. It pissed him off enough. That's the origin story.
That's the type of grudge you want to hold. A grudge so strong that it forces you to start a competing company. Next up on the list, big news out of the Bitcoin Policy Institute, Paradigm, Fund DeFi, Crypto Council, Digital Chamber, Solana Institute, Blockchain Association, and Uniswap Foundation, in conjunction with Coin Center, they filed an amicus brief in Llewellyn versus Bondi that could decide whether publishing open source crypto software makes you a criminal. The government is arguing that anyone who writes non-custodial tools like Tornado Cash developers or the Samourai wallet team can be prosecuted as an unlicensed money transmitter just because people use their code to send money. That's dangerous and wrong. These developers never touch user funds. If the court buys this theory, it would basically ban private peer-to-peer transactions and make it too risky to build the tools that keep Bitcoin and crypto decentralized. Developers shouldn't have to choose between writing code and going to prison. We're urging the court to reject this overreach, protect the right to publish code, and keep the U.S. a place where people can build open, non-custodial financial tools without fear. This is a message from Zach Shapiro from the Bitcoin Policy Institute, and very encouraging to see. This has been a long-standing, ongoing battle between the industry and the Department of Justice in both the cases of Tornado Cash and Samourai Wallet. Things are escalating. There's been a recent update to the Samourai Wallet case that we'll talk about in a little bit, but as we hit all-time highs and enter open water Bitcoin, it's very important to cover something like this because the fight certainly is not over.
Yeah, I mean, the Samourai developers have been in jail now it's been 443 days since they were arrested. I believe they're out on bail, but
House arrest.
absolutely brutal. If you want to support their case, Bitcoin Policy Institute also has a legal defense fund for their case and others. You can find that at p2prights.org.
Yeah. Should we just segue into the new Samurai indictments? Our friend Lola Leitz wrote a very in-depth article on this, but they're
you don't have to
completely...
say we're segueing. I made a list. I constructed it in a very orderly timeline, and you can just read what's next on the list.
This is what's next on the list. The prosecutors in the Samourai wallet case are changing their case on the go, essentially their argument. And I believe their new argument is that Samourai specifically intended for their software to be used by criminals. And they're fighting the Samourai wallet team with the software, and it actually seems very sloppy how they're doing this.
Yeah, it's sloppy and malicious is how it is my take. It does not, I mean, people shouldn't be surprised, but it doesn't seem like this case is being handled in good faith.
No, not at all. So in Odell's article, there's a section, the SDNY doubles down on technical inaccuracies. While the original Samourai wallet indictment was already written with technical inaccuracies, such as alleging that the Samourai wallet software created new addresses for users, it doesn't. SDNY is doubling down on these claims in their superseding indictment rather than correcting them. The new indictment now alleges that Samourai cut down the cryptocurrency into sizes pool, and that Samourai returned back to the user any leftover funds from this transaction that were too small to enter the whirlpool by replacing them in a separate address, which appears to imply that these actions were executed by the Samourai wallet developers. To compare, the original indictment stated that the cryptocurrency is cut down and that leftover funds are placed in a separate address and provided back to the Samourai wallet user, while not explicitly stating these are caused by the Samourai wallet software and not the developers. It appears to be a more accurate description of the service that can be found in the new indictment. The new indictment, just as the old indictment, continues to allege that the Samourai coordinator generated new addresses on behalf of users, although the private keys for these cryptocurrency addresses stored in each user's individual phone and not shared with Samourai employees. Reference, it continues to be technically impossible to generate new addresses without control the private keys. And so it seems like the SDNY does not understand the concept of change addresses and work not only within Samourai wallet software, but most Bitcoin wallet software that exists today.
Yeah, this write-up was by Lola Leitz of The Rage, therage.co. She's been doing great work. Her journalism is ad-free and supported by donations. She's trying to do it the right way. It is a hard way. It is a hard path to go down. So if you enjoy her work, consider supporting her. I see a message from Logan here. But Bitcoin Park Austin is blocking the rage.co domain.
Looks like it.
Which means it's probably on some, because that office has like an enterprise router or something that like automatically blocks shit, right? We lost Marty, which means it's
Marty,
on some kind of list.
you're muted.
I'm on mute. It's because Unchained
You're also lagging out a lot.
They have heightened security because of the nature of their business, so they're very, very conservative with their internet.
They subscribe to some automated list, so it means she's on some lists, which means she's doing it right. So shout out to her for that. And we'll reach out to the Unchained guys to try and get her unblocked in the Bitcoin capital of Austin.
Yeah. Beware. Like I said earlier, open water Bitcoin, new all-time highs, numbers going up, but the fight is not over. We need to ensure that these developers, as Zach said in his tweet, don't have to choose between writing software and going to prison. You are not free if you do not have financial privacy and the freedom to use open source software to protect your own money. This is the digital age. The digital age is bumping up with industrial age laws, particularly stemming from the Bank Secrecy Act, that don't make sense today. And it's time for the incumbent politicians and political apparatus to get comfortable with the fact that this stuff exists now. It makes people lives better, and we're going to use it. And the fight continues. So shout out to BPI and all the other groups that got together to write and publish this amicus brief. Hopefully it moves the market, or moves the market, but moves the conversation in a better way.
Marty just cares about his bags getting pumped.
That is not true. Next up on the list, we have Bob Burnett from Barefoot Mining. He disclosed some ocean payout stats earlier this week, or yesterday, for that matter. And it looks like ocean is very competitive, if not highly competitive, to the point that it optimizes for it's the best pool in terms of payouts. I'm not sure what pool A, pool B, and pool C are in his chart, but looks like ocean, which was long derided as a pool that probably wouldn't be as profitable as the others, is turning out to be more profitable than the others.
Yeah, I mean, ocean is clearly the best pool in terms of mining freedom. And it does seem like it is the most profitable. I will say that at the very least, miners should be experimenting and doing their own experiments. It's a little bit weird that he didn't list the names of the pools. I presumably they're the larger pools, the more popular pools that he has there. I would say a disclosure for himself that I believe he's an investor in Ocean, or at the very least, a launch partner. I remember the launch party was like co-branded between the two of them. I think it was at one of his mining sites. But I have no reason to believe that these numbers are incorrect or misleading. And if you do look at the numbers, it clearly shows that Ocean is more profitable. I mean, if you look at the 100-day numbers, 180-day numbers, that's almost a 2% increase and in a very tight margin business, right? Bitcoin mining is one of the tightest margin businesses in the world. That's pretty huge.
20%.
Oh, shit. Yeah, there you go.
No. Is my audio still robotic? Do I need to go out and come back?
No, it's your internet that just, I think, is going in and out.
Okay. All right, next up, we've got the Human Rights Foundation story of the week coming out of Russia. We're tracking Bitcoin mining via national registry is happening. Russia launched a national registry to track Bitcoin mining equipment 3 months after the proposal was first floated by its Ministry of Energy. The move is designed to monitor energy use, enforce tax collection, and stamp out unregistered operations in key mining regions. A separate law, still in draft form, would also allow courts to seize digital assets linked to mining deemed quote-unquote illegal. Miners who fail to comply will face fines of up to 2 million rubles, which is about $22,000. 6 regions are already under a full mining ban until 2031. Overall, Russia's new Bitcoin mining registry poses serious risks to financial and civil liberties by enforcing miners to register equipment and comply with rules under the threat of asset seizure or closure. The Kremlin gains greater surveillance and control over Bitcoin mining in Russia and offers a potential blueprint for other authoritarian regimes. For more stories like this, make sure you are subscribed to the Human Rights Foundation Financial Freedom Report. You can do that at financialfreedomreport.org. And it looks like the Russian Ministry of Energy took the idea from the Biden administration. I'm not sure if you recall, but the Biden administration wanted to do this in the EPA with miners 2 years ago. And luckily for us here in the United States of America, we live in a democratic republic where states assert their rights, and I believe the state of Texas, riots and others took the federal government to court and ultimately won. But the Biden administration tried to do the same thing here, which was have miners basically dox their utility providers, what energy source they were using, what mining models they were using, how much Bitcoin they were stacking with their mining operations, and report that to the government. So it's happening to Russians, and as we all know, Russia is what do we consider it? Communist dictatorship, socialist dictatorship.
Yeah, I would say that. Or
Yeah.
I mean, it's at the very least an authoritarian government.
Yeah, and we get a lot of shit here. We're very critical of our government here in the United States, but I think the fact that we were able to push back against that attempt to get this similar data here in the United States is a testament to the fact that there are still remnants of freedom here in the United States that don't
Like-
exist in other countries like Russia.
America is not perfect. Nowhere is perfect. But there's nowhere else I would be. I would prefer to raise my family and build businesses. Full stop. Like it's not even close. But this trend is something we are going to see happen more and more across the world. And I mean, particularly for on-grid large mining operations it's hard to hide the footprint. And the two things we have going for us is, first of all, those pirate miners, right? The off-grid operations, the smaller operations, home mining, which we've seen a renaissance with lately, and just the sheer fact that mining is global. It's a true global free market where people are competing effectively on energy cost, and as a result, all these responses will be separate and being done by governments that are oftentimes enemies of each other. So it is incredibly unlikely, if not impossible, for them to coordinate on any kind of real enforcement on Bitcoin mining.
It is. And shout out to Mike, Tyler, and what they're doing to bring at-home mining to the next level by using the waste heat. I think Tyler, we need to get you either on RHR, on TFTC, on Citadel Dispatch, because you were there in Nashville at the beginning of the year. It's a stat stuck in my mind since he uttered it on stage in Nashville in January, which is if you convert 2% of the global HVAC market to incorporating mining into their operations, it would triple network hash rate, which is insane. It seems like an attainable goal too. And in that scenario, you would significantly distribute hash rate ownership if you were to do that.
Yeah, I mean, the cool part about monetizing waste with Bitcoin mining is it actually has a diseconomy of scale. It's easier to do it in small scales, efficiency-wise. So the dream of every boiler at Home Depot being a Bitcoin miner, I think, is very much attainable. It's going to take time. It's a time thing, and you basically need the usable lifetime of these ASICs to be longer, and that is the trend we're watching. And why is that? Is because people aren't going to, no one wants to replace their boiler every few years. It's a decade-long purchase, if not more.
Yeah. We need to figure out a way to make it easy to switch out the hash board so you don't have to replace your whole boiler when doing that.
I mean, I think it just solves itself by how long were S9s profitable for?
I think some of them
5
still
years, 8 years.
Still are running today. No, 7, 8 at least. Some of them are still running today.
Yeah. So we're getting there. I don't know if it's just going to take time. There's some interesting schemes where like you target the landlords and the renters are basically just eating the cost. which could do it in shorter order than actually making it. That's like a financial. That's like a financial shortcut to make it happen.
Work smart, not hard. Go to landlords who have control and scale.
I apologize, freaks. I'm like a little bit all over the place. It was
What are you talking about?
hard,
What are you talking
hard
about?
night of sleep, a
What are you
lack of
talking about?
sleep.
You're fine, brother. You're
There we
fine.
go.
With that, we'll pick up the vibes. We got to read the top boost from Rabbit Hole Recap 364. Big, beautiful Bitcoin. We've got 2 to read this, or 3 to read this week. Excuse me. First up from our girl Pringle Mac. 30,333 sats, threes across the board, palindrome boost. Holy moly, I nearly peed my pants when Matt ended the show with "Don't be a frugal cunt." So true. Bitcoin has provided us with an unimaginable freedom, and when used for good, it brings unforeseen rewards too. Big love always, Sil and Tony. P.S. Check your node, Matt. Last week's sats did not get to you.
I think I fixed it if you want to test it out with another big zap this week. But thanks for the heads up, Sil, and appreciate you being a ride or die and your support. It does mean a lot.
Keith Sharp with another palindrome boost, 21,212 sats. And it is that time of year, the time to shield TabConf again. October 13th to 16th, builder/developer content, pleb friendly. Go to tabconf.com. See you in Atlanta. Stay humble, stack sats. Peace and love.
Great advice, great event.
And last but not least, another ride or die. Week in, week out, freak Stimmy. 21,000 sats. Free Samourai. Very fitting based off the conversation we just had.
We're not winning until we get them free.
It's true.
The fight continues.
This is cool to see. Vibe coding. Big trend right now. Enabling people like myself and others who are not technically competent to build apps. And it seems like one of the most prolific tech founders of our generation is vibe coding too. And he vibe coded an app called Bitchat.
Did you just call Dorsey not technically competent?
Yeah, I was joking. It was a joke. Even the technically competent people are vibe coding. But Bitchat. Bitchat.
Bitchat.
Very, very popular topic this week, not only in Bitcoin and privacy focused circles, but even in mainstream media. I believe TBPN was talking about it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even call them mainstream media yet, but there were actually mainstream media articles about it. It hit the popular zeitgeist pretty quickly. It seems that Dorsey put it together in 2 or 3 days. He said he did it over the weekend. And the basic idea is, and then he just shipped it live and posted it. He posted it to Nostr first, and then he posted it to X, where it really blew up. And the whole idea is an encrypted mesh networking enabled chat, where you use Bluetooth to communicate between phones, and each phone's a node, so then they can relay it to others. And then I think what's actually even the cooler aspect of it is then Kali picked up the reins. So Jack released it on iOS only. It was a native app on iOS. And the test flight filled real quick because test flight has a limit on 10,000 users. And then Kali in like a day used AI to rewrite it for Android, and now has an Android compatible app that's also native, which is pretty fucking mind blowing. Just the pace of iteration there.
Yeah. And I mean, I believe he spent another day to get it compatible with Graphene OS as well.
No, he just restarted and it worked on Graphene.
Okay.
The classic unplug and plug it back in. See, Graphene, the reason is because, and I failed to, I'm pretty sure this is fucking malicious, but the way Google and Apple handle Bluetooth Low Energy is it requires a location permission. They like group in Bluetooth Low Energy as with GPS and everything else, which just seems ridiculous on the surface. Like it just shouldn't be grouped in with that permission set. And so obviously Graphene really is designed to, provide you the best privacy experience possible in a de-Googled Android phone. And presumably he had location permissions denied on it. But yeah, if you want to use it, you have to enable location. It doesn't actually, the app is open source. It's going to be non-monetized, it appears. It's completely false code. So you can inspect the code, but it doesn't like check your location and report your location. It's for the actual Bluetooth aspect. And the beauty here with there's a bunch of cool mesh projects. There's Meshtastic. There's another one that recently got on my eye line on called Samiz, which is a Nostr mesh system. And the cool part is you obviously don't need internet in situations like we just saw recently in Iran, where the government shut down the internet. This will still work. The biggest issue with mesh is that it requires a real density of people, right? It works better in cities. It works better in festivals, disaster situations where there is a heavy density but no internet connectivity. And the real holy grail is mixing it with internet connectivity, in my mind. And I think Nostr is actually incredibly ideal for this. But the dream, right, is a encrypted chat app that works incredibly well when you have internet, and then when you lose internet, goes into a mesh mode that is transmitting it peer-to-peer. And then if any peer along that line has internet, it seamlessly then hits the internet and goes out to the internet. And you can see a beautiful situation there where you combine the two. And I think that's where we're going. I think it's been a long time in the making. But it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing how one dude, I mean, he's not just a random dude, right? He has a massive following on X. But one dude can just vibe code something, put it out there, and then it gets in the zeitgeist. Like, people just get really excited about it. Even though for people that were paying attention,
Stuff like
there's been decades of people working on this shit.
Well, a lot of the comments I saw around Bitchat specifically were, why isn't Apple or Google just ship this out of the box for the iPhone or Android? Hopefully something like this. Like, wouldn't it be cool if both operating systems, both companies, Google and Apple, which have a majority of the market for mobile phones globally, like, shipped Bitchat out of the box and just enabled this? And when you think of solving the pain points that have existed historically for these mesh networks, like, just have the ability for all these phones out of the box to have this enabled, and problems essentially solved overnight.
So one piece of context there is, when Apple first originally released AirDrop, the way to transmit data between devices peer-to-peer, it was very open and flexible. And it was actually being used in the 2019 Hong Kong protests to transmit information without the CCP getting it. And as a result, China put pressure on them, and they changed the settings globally after that, and they locked it down. So I think that's part of the piece, is that being able to communicate peer-to-peer is threatening not just for corporate entities, but also for governments. And this is a trend that we see across the freedom tech space, right? This is why FOSS is so important, because if things require permission, the centralized actors that are in the position to grant you that permission will get pressured, will exert pressure themselves. And as a result, we don't get cool shit that enables freedom.
Yeah. It's a goddamn shame. Yeah, these governments, it's getting in the way of freedom. But
I mean, why doesn't Apple Pay have Bitcoin? Like, why can't people with iPhones just tap to pay with an integrated Bitcoin wallet? That would be even easier. That'd be even easier for them to do.
Yeah. They move slow. They
could literally put that shit together in a weekend. Just give me a fucking QR code and Apple Pay. You just scan it and just tap to pay anywhere.
Yeah. Moving on. I'm opening this now. I haven't seen this yet. You have it on the list. Flappy Nostritch.
Oh, Logan should just play in the background. This is what you wanted, the Gen Z. You don't have to sign in. Just click to start. There we
Oh,
go.
I'm playing it right now. I'm playing it.
So this guy on Nostr, Ryan, vibe coded this. And look, it actually shows Nostr notes. So it's a Nostr app. It's like a client. You can read your Nostr notes while you're playing
That
a
seems hard.
Flappy Bird clone.
That seems hard to do.
Obviously, zaps are enabled in it as well. There's a leaderboard. I think this is early days of a trend where Nostr as an identity social protocol could be very, very useful for social games. And I would like to see more social gaming happen on it. And as a humble gambler, I love the idea of social betting too, right? Like I should just be able to challenge someone to a bet in the mentions and have everyone peer pressure each other into it and brag and not brag and feel dejected all in the social aspect. So I think this is an early trend of it, and he just vibe coded this over a few days, which is pretty cool. And as we see this trend of vibe coding accelerate, I think people will start to realize the advantages of building on top of open protocols, right? You don't need to get an API subscription to X to get a social graph. You don't need to get an API to Stripe Stripe with a P to handle money. You can just use Bitcoin and Nostr, and you can just ship it and then iterate live.
Yeah, it's happening. Don't sleep on this stuff. The environment for the stuff to proliferate quicker than many expect is there, and I think vibe coding is going to be a massive part of that.
We have a 21,000 sat zap from Maple Bitcoin. Thanks for everything you guys do. When RHR ends, hop onto the Maple Bitcoin stream, which will be on Zap Stream. Shout out Kieran, Logan, Odell, and Marty.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for including me. I'm looking for something you don't have the list, but I want to bring up. While I do that, you go on to the next.
The white noise beta has been released. White noise is something that a bunch of us have been excited about for a little over a year now. The idea is a more robust, more censorship resistant alternative to Signal that uses Nostr for the social graph and identity layer. So you can think highly secure, open, interoperable messaging protocol. It's built on top of MLS, which is meant to be the open improvement to the Signal protocol. It supposedly scales much better than Signal's protocol and is more efficient while offering similar security and privacy guarantees. It's definitely a very early beta. If you don't have a Nostr account, it will make one for you. Or you can sign in with your existing Nostr account, and all of a sudden you have all your contacts that you already have, which is really cool. But I had them on Citadel Dispatch yesterday for the launch. So if that's something that interests you, search Citadel Dispatch in your favorite podcast app. I think it was a really, really fun rip. And particularly, it's just what a flex having a live stream while we're ripping through all-time highs, talking about the technical intricacies of private messaging. Just feels good. Feels good inside. And
Back to
I'm pretty excited for those guys. It's run by Jeff Gardner, who is the lead dev over there, and Max Hillebrand is basically the project manager. He's the PM, does everything that's not dev related. And Jeff specifically is running on an OpenSats and HRF grant, so it's a nice success story that we're seeing out of OpenSats that we're pretty excited about. I see someone asking what we think about SimpleX. I think SimpleX is great. It's a very promising project. The key difference here is, so like if you're using SimpleX, you have to, either use their server or run your own server, which you can, or you can switch servers on the fly. I think the really cool unlock here is that it uses Nostr relays. It just uses standard Nostr relays for data transmission, and it uses the standard Nostr identity social graph layer for actually finding contacts, right? Historically, we have seen the most successful messengers and like Signal is such a win in terms of usability and security guarantees. But WhatsApp has even more users. Like WhatsApp has like 5 billion users, and it's a really shit fucking app, and Facebook's harvesting your metadata. But the point I was getting at is they use phone numbers for social discovery. And why is that? Is because when you're trying to bootstrap a new chat app, it's really hard to have everyone just add each other and try and find each other. So I think Nostr could be a really good open way to handle this problem, this bootstrapping problem, and this social graph problem. And because it's all open, you can imagine a world where, yeah, maybe some people will be using the White Noise app, but other people might be using Primal or Amethyst or some other app that all integrates this same protocol and the same social graph, and they're all interoperable with each other. So hopefully we see like 100 different apps bloom and integration across the space. And it's just very early days, but really cool to see. And once again, as many false private messengers as possible. I don't really care how you do it. Let's keep iterating. Let's keep seeing what works, what doesn't work. But I'm pretty excited about White Noise.
Yeah, and if you have enough clients leveraging the White Noise open source protocol, like who's to say you can't chat between clients? You pick your favorite client and use that as your go-to, and the fact that they're all built on this distributed interoperable network just makes them compatible with each other, which is extremely powerful.
Just to be clear, right now it's just the White Noise app, and
yes,
it's not integrated anywhere else. I will say at Primal, we're very focused on making that happen. We've been using the very outdated Nostr chat spec because there's been iterative improvements to it over time, but we didn't want to keep doing breaking changes. We wanted to go straight to this. So the goal is to integrate this directly into Primal, and we'll see how long that takes. Hopefully not too long.
Yeah. With that, it took me a while because I couldn't spell Pavonex's name correctly in search, but I found it. Logan, if you want to pull it up, I thought this was really cool. Just wanted to highlight this. I didn't even know this was going on, but there was a hackathon, particularly targeted towards developers building wallets, and the hackathon prompt was, we need to build wallets for Gen Z. So the winners were announced this week. Logan linked to this in the show notes, but I thought this was a really interesting sort of project and endeavor, trying to reach Gen Z by incorporating memes.
This is like Gen Alpha shit. Skibidi.
Gen Alpha. Yeah. Yeah, so Skibidi is the project that really is trying to solve this problem of making Bitcoin approachable and usable for Gen Z and Gen Alpha.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, the wallets, I don't think I would use them, but I could see why the younger gens would be attracted to them. All right, on to the fiat world topics of the day. Elon launched the America Party, rage quit the Trump administration, not happy with the fact that Doge is not really getting the shine he thinks it deserves. We're increasing the spending. The big beautiful bill got passed, and Elon is deciding to start a third political party in the United States called the America Party. Very creative branding.
Well, he also already has x.com/America, which he was using for his super PAC. I think people are anchoring to the fact that third parties in the U.S. Tend to get absolutely destroyed in the presidential election, and I think the real interesting play here is him going after Congress, going after Senate and House seats. And if he can get 10% of the Senate and the House, or somewhere around there, he'll have a lot of influence on these. And like everything comes super tight. All these, like the big beautiful bill, like what, it got passed by just a few votes.
It was like
so in those, if you control a few seats in each, you could have a lot of influence. And he's the richest man in the world. He controls one of the most important social platforms in the world in terms of discourse. And if anyone can pull that off, it's him. I think it could be substantial.
No, I think we talked about this last week, and I threw out the like third parties, historically, whether here in the United States or globally, particularly in Europe. Number one, aren't successful. Number two, typically hand off wins to those with more socialist tendencies. But there was a good thread by Justin Murphy, or a tweet, and basically echoing what you just said. Like, I would not underestimate Elon based off of everything he's accomplished and the type of grudges that he holds. So it will be interesting to see if it gains traction. But I will reiterate what I said last week, which is I think the more effective way to drive change, particularly as it comes to fiscal spending and waste at the federal government level, is to embrace Bitcoin as aggressively as possible and incorporate it into as many facets of your life as you can.
Yeah, I mean, the only Bitcoin treasuries that matter is your family's Bitcoin treasury. So make it happen, freaks. Yeah. No one's gonna do it for you. You got to do it yourself.
Well, and all this will be interesting too. I mean, obviously, 24-hour, 48-hour news cycle. I've already forgotten about it, but
it's like a 6-hour. It's like a 6-hour news cycle, Marty. At least on X, it's a 6-hour news cycle.
But the big news cycle this week was grok being unleashed.
MechaHitler. I think Grok just named itself MechaHitler. It wasn't even prompted to do that.
There was Grok 3 too, but Grok 4 it was launched, I believe, Wednesday night. Seems like the loose super prompt is still there. So
I think they loosened control over Grok 3 as an advertisement for Grok 4. And like they just shipped it live, so they didn't realize the implications of that. But it got vicious out there. It was pretty. I think it's a glimpse. It was a glimpse into the chaos of our future, at least in the short to medium term. Pretty crazy to witness.
And I think it really highlighted the bias that can be introduced into these models just via the super prompt. Because for anybody who's unaware, like a lot of these LLMs have a super prompt. It's like, here's how you're supposed to act. And if you use ChatGPT a lot, there's a lot of conversations around the different models. Like 4.0 is very amenable. It's like it'll pump you up. It'll like basically tell you everything you want to hear. 3.0 is more analytical, and basically we're taught to believe that these things are going to lead us to super intelligence, but that this sort of output that is put out there is highly influenced by the bias that is introduced via these super prompts that exist. And this is when MechaHitler emerged, because they changed one section of the super prompt.
Yeah, I guess like supposedly like the line was don't shy away from politically incorrect things if it has substantiated data behind it.
Yeah.
And so Grok took that prompt and read through the internet and decided that Hitler was right. And that was the result. I don't know. It seems like too big of a coincidence, but then Linda Yaccarino, who was
she definitely stepped down because of this.
Former WEF, World Economic Forum, CEO of X, stepped down after 2 years, right after it happened. It might have been already in progress, and it really forced her hand. But Grok was also really mean to her specifically, and also I can't help with ad sales. But in general, that business ever since. So what happened was Elon bought X for $55 billion and it was getting crushed. Like looked like a horrible deal. And then he launched XAI, which was personal to him because he was effectively one of the OpenAI co-founders. And him and Sam fell out and the whole point of OpenAI originally, the whole story was supposed to be they were going to be the open source competitors to the big juggernauts of Google and Facebook, and AI was too important to have in proprietary corporate walled gardens. And then they became the bad guys, like astounding pace, like very quickly. So Elon launches XAI. Then XAI gets a ridiculous private market valuation, just insane valuation. I don't remember what the last valuation was, but extremely high. So then XAI buys X to bail out the investors that stood behind Elon in the first place. And so as a result, I think the AI component, the XAI component, is becoming more and more, clearly becoming more and more a focus for Elon and his team. And so it must have been frustrating for her to be running effectively what is like a lost leader for the AI division. And then you see them just ship live something like Grok 3, and it probably pushed her over the edge.
Yeah. Kieran's correcting me. It's a system prompt, not a super prompt.
Fair enough.
For the bias.
Good to see him. Good to see him in the live chat.
Yeah.
Do you see him coming? $1,300 stream. I think he's proud of himself for getting it. Thank you, Kieran, for taking a break from your holiday and getting us back live. And thank you, Brian, for I think the largest zap of all time on RHR yet.
I think we had a 2.1 million about a year ago. I will say that.
I mean, in terms of purchasing power, it's definitely the largest.
Definitely largest. Yeah. Yeah, it'll be like this whole Elon saga. I think you called it out probably this time last year when he joined Trump. It's like the most obvious future breakup of all time when you have the richest man in the world and the most powerful man in the world trying to do things. So it's happened, and I do worry. Not that I'm worried, but you just like observing Elon's actions. It's like you could see sort of like a manic fall off happen at some point in the next couple of years. So,
yeah, I mean, shareholders aren't happy about it. I just please, like, just don't fuck with Starlink. Starlink is amazing. My family relies on it. Freaks, for you, I upgraded to their brand new $2,000 professional dish, which is what this stream is brought to you by. And holy shit, like, just living in the future. Like, I don't think people realize, like, anyone who's familiar with internet, my latency on this satellite averages from like 20 to 25 milliseconds, which is insane. It's almost fiber level. So please just
don't mess with Starlink. Don't mess with it.
Starlink is the best government-run program in the world, or at least government-subsidized program in the world, and I really enjoy it. So thank you. Thank you.
You heard it here. You heard it here first. Matt really enjoys government-subsidized programs.
Just this one. Don't turn it to the DMV, please. I want to, for the next story, Logan, can you play this clip?
He did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the set?
Yeah, sure.
If could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
He did work for
Marty, thoughts?
It's really unbelievable that the American people are curious to learn about the sweeping under the rug of Jeffrey Epstein, who is I'm pretty confident saying was an intelligence asset of a foreign nation. That there's a lot of good evidence and testimony from people involved that he was in a blackmailing. He had a blackmailing scheme. He would use child sex abuse, get powerful people to an island or parts of New Mexico, parts of Europe, France, I believe.
New
Get
York.
these New
Yeah,
York, get
like a
these
ridiculous townhouse
politicians,
in New York.
get
Yeah.
these politicians and powerful people lubed up, get them with young girls and boys, videotape them doing bad things, and then hold that over their heads as political blackmail. I don't think it is unbelievable that people are still talking about it and curious about what actually happened with that whole thing. So it is insane.
I
They're
mean,
just trying to brush it under the rug.
that clip is a fucking killer. Like, I mean, he's incredibly complicit with the whole thing. There's no other way to cut it.
Do you want to hear? Do you want to?
And
Do you want to
talk
hear
about
like? Do you want to hear like the Q, like MAGA
talk about
stronghold,
gaslighting.
the Q MAGA stronghold theory of all this?
I think the straight cope theory. I think I know which theory is, but why don't you tell the freaks?
No, it's like it's like a reverse blackmail now. It's like, hey, they went to all of them. We're gonna sweep this under the rug, but we have blackmail over you. You have to get the America First agenda pushed through, or
No,
we come back and say,
straight cope. That's straight cope. Trump is on the list. I mean, I think Mossad was definitely involved with Epstein, but I think our intelligence agencies probably were complicit as well. Like, I think it's probably a combination. And I think to say just Mossad is probably giving a cop out to Americans. I think they're all responsible. And I would remind people that about 3 weeks ago, before we bombed Iran, before there was a war with Iran.
oh, when was
Richest,
that? I forgot about that already.
the richest man in the world, who was also in the government alongside Trump in the White House, said Trump was on the Epstein list, then deleted the tweet. Then we went to war with Iran.
He came out earlier this week and said Steve Bannon's on the list too.
Yeah, I did see that. They're all dirty. I mean, look, there's a lot of evidence out there that Trump was close with Epstein. There's also a lot of evidence that Clinton was close with Epstein. This crosses party lines. This crosses so many different things. And they can all go fuck themselves.
Yeah. Let's not end a great week on the topic of satanic pedophile rings and their influence over politics and business in our world. Let's end on something positive, but completely egregious. Completely egregious that they're sweeping it on their rug. I think most people who have more than 2 brain cells can see directly through what they're trying to do, and I don't think this is gonna go away anytime soon. I don't think people are just going to shut up because Trump said it. This is ridiculous that you're still asking about this creep. So I think they're just creating a Streisand effect that could come back to significantly hinder their efforts moving forward.
But you said you didn't want to end on this.
No, we don't want to end on that one. What should we end on?
Freaks, if you have questions for us, we have a half an hour. So if you have questions for us, if you want something for us to riff on, we can just sit here for 20 minutes and shout at ourselves, because it does feel good. I think Rabbit Hole Recap is mostly going to be us shouting at ourselves for like the next 12 to 18 months. So you get used to it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Well, I do have to run. Like, if we don't have to take the whole 20 minutes, but we will take some questions and we'll
Marty's
talk
got to
about
leave,
something.
so no questions.
No, I've got to
I'm fine.
I've been hand up July 11th. I've only made one alcohol run for the house. It's my turn. There's a lot of people, a lot of adults in this house. We're down the shore. People like to enjoy a drink or two on the weekend when you're at the Jersey Shore. And I've been freeloading for a few weeks now. It's time for me to get in the car and do a liquor run. Do a wine run, really, not liquor. Wine and beer.
Why do I like Cold Card over Trezor? Why is it better than Shamir secret sharing, since Cold Card doesn't offer that? First of all, disclosure, Cold Card is a sponsor of the show. We're friends with MVK. We're the exclusive investor in Coinkite, very profitable business that pays us out dividends. But also, it's the only one that I actually use myself. And my belief that it was the best came before all of those things. Why is it better than Trezor? Well, first of all, Trezor historically didn't have a secure element, and recently they did add one. So that knock is no longer against them. And why do you want a secure element? You want a secure element because if someone gets access to your actual hardware, you don't want them to be able to extract the secret, extract your private keys from it. Obviously, you should try and secure your hardware wallet anyway. But think of it like a safe. It's a safe for your private keys. And you want the most secure safe if someone gets access to your safe. You don't want the like shitty safe that you buy on Amazon for $10 and try and hold $1,000 in it. That'd be dumb. But what I really like about Cold Card is, first of all, it's very easy to use in an air gap fashion, right? You don't have to connect it via USB to a computer. You can use it with SD card or with QR code on the new Cold Card Q. The QR code specifically makes it very easy to use with mobile because even if you have an iPhone, which they lock down a lot, but they can't lock down QR codes. Like you can use those without permission. As far as Shamir secret sharing goes, I really like Cold Card has a feature called Seed XOR, which effectively gives you 2 seeds, and you can put those 2 seeds in different places. And you need both to access your funds to restore a backup. So I think that's a better trade-off balance than Shamir secret sharing because it's easier to audit.
And I would add for the longest time, like MK3, MK4, which I think it was pretty weak criticism, but it says like, oh, it's too hard to use. It's for like hardcore users. The UX on Trezor is better. I think with the Q, all of that is undeniably wrong now. Like the fact, like the Q, biggest upgrades there, obviously full keyboard, bigger screen. The battery pack is massive, like in terms of air gapped, offline, private, public key pair creation, like just being able to, you could literally be in a plane and do it.
Yeah,
Not that I recommend this.
you can generate your keys all on the Cold Card without connecting it to a computer in the first place. With Trezor, you need to connect it to a computer. You have to download their app and go through the process.
Yeah. And it's very, very simple with the Q. Like the battery pack for me and the QR code and NFC enabled with MK3, MK4 wasn't like too big a thing, but like either having like buy the 8-volt battery and the connector to do that at your kitchen table or plug it into a wall and just like be connected to a cord to your wall to create it. Like just the fact that you can put batteries in and do it wherever, for me, massive upgrade. Like SD card transferring is always a bit annoying, like being able to use QR code with Sparrow.
I love
is a much
SD
bigger
cards.
upgrade. I hate SD cards.
I'm
Like,
an MK4 maxi. Like I have Qs, but Cold Card has a bunch of cool features. I love the dummy pins are awesome. You can have pins do different things. You can have them open different wallets. You can have them wipe the device. You can have it set a timer on it. There's a bunch of different things with Cold Card that make it unique. It has multiple secure elements. So if one secure element gets compromised, like they're incredibly paranoid and they build paranoia into the device for you. So you don't have to deal with it. To Marty's point, with people thinking it's difficult, part of the reason is they have so many power user features, but you don't have to use the power features if you don't want to. You can start in the simplest way and just use it in single sig, use it without a passphrase, and practice with that and then get better. On the multi-sig side, I think it's the only one that actually checks change addresses on multi-sig, which is incredibly important because you don't want to send your change to the wrong place. If you're, the way Bitcoin transactions work is you send a larger amount usually, and then change gets sent back to you. So if you're not checking those change addresses, it can be disastrous. But what I would say to people is like, look, the hardware space is the best it's ever been. Self-custody in Bitcoin is the best it's ever been. It's the easiest it's ever been. It's the most accessible it's ever been. If you have a large amount of money, try out all these different devices. Do your own research, like come up to your own conclusions. And my conclusion is that Cold Card is the best and there isn't a second best. People can disagree with me if they want. But I've owned all of these devices, and that was how I came to that conclusion.
Yeah. We'll answer one more question. How to use Lightning privately from
That's the question you're going to
BTC
choose.
Wrestle. I mean, do you want to talk about Op Vault upgrade? My comment on Op
Marty,
Vault would be, I think it's too specific. If you're going to do like a Covenants upgrade, you probably want to get more. I love the concept of Op Vault. I think it makes sense to make it harder for people to hack your system and easily steal your Bitcoin if you had conditional paths that would allow you to basically sweep Bitcoin if somebody's trying to steal it to an address that you actually control. I think that's beneficial. We've talked about it a lot in the last many months. How does it get implemented? How do we get a soft fork? What's the activation method for that soft fork? Those are all, I think that's the meat of the conversation that needs to be had. And I'm not going to be the one that drives that conversation, I don't think. But in terms of using Lightning privately, I think out of the box sending privately, it's very strong right now. But like, if you want an out of the box setup to use it as privately as possible, I think I've been using the wallet for years, and I think the advancements that Evan and the team at Zeus have made make an out of the box, very private Lightning wallet pretty easy. And so yeah, if you want to run a node on your phone, set up a Lightning wallet, I think Zeus is a good way to do that. I think things are only going to progress as Bolt 11 invoicing becomes the standard on Lightning. Why are you hating on this question?
No, I know. The reason is just because this question has a lot of fucking nuance. You answered it decently well. The problem with using Lightning privately is a lot of it comes down to using on-chain Bitcoin privately, which also has a lot of footgun potentials. And I'll just use, for example, I'll use this guy who moved $8 billion dollars worth of Bitcoin, his 80,000 Bitcoin transfer, who we don't know who it is. But all it takes is one mistake for us to figure out who it is. Because the blockchain is forever.
What was the guy who stole the Silk Road's Bitcoin? Loaded.
Yeah, exactly.
He
But
made like one change address mistake, and that's what fucked him up.
Yeah, but he also like had a crime at his house that he reported to the police, and then the police came. There's like a whole other aspect there.
Really? I don't remember that part of the story.
He had money stolen from him, and he brought the police in. He showed them his Bitcoin storage. It was like a. So I really like Zeus alongside Marty. I think probably most people aren't going to run a 24/7 Lightning node from home, but the easiest way to do that is with Start9. And Zeus works really well connecting back to your remote node. As Marty said, they also have node in your phone mode. And so the thing I like about using it in light mode and node in your phone mode is what you can do is you can just take a CoinJoin UTXO, fund the wallet, make one big channel to a large node, and then spend it down, and then wipe the wallet, and then start fresh again with another CoinJoin UTXO. And in that situation, it's kind of hard for you to fuck it up. And you can do the same strategy with something like Phoenix, which is a little bit less private, but easier to use and more performant than Zeus. Like, it's just faster. And the reason is because you have less transactional privacy, because everything runs through Async's super large fucking $50 million node that they have. But Phoenix is great for that reason too. And so you can just fund it with one UTXO, make a bunch of payments, wipe the wallet, start fresh again. Is probably the best, not the best, but the easiest and the hardest to fuck up. But yeah,
I guess
if you use Lightning a lot, it could be worth it to run your own 24/7 node at home. But in that situation, you kind of have to do the same thing. You're going to be constantly wiping it and reloading it with UTXOs to reduce your footprint.
Yeah. And like, just to the broader topic of Lightning privacy, to be clear, like, you have a lot of sending privacy on Lightning right now. Receiving privacy is not as good, but as I mentioned earlier, something like Bolt 11 invoicing fixes that, and there has been a lot of progress there.
Volt 12.
Volt 12, excuse me.
You also said 8-volt battery. It's a 9-volt battery.
You know
You
me.
keep getting a lot of off by 1 errors.
You guys know what I'm talking about. You get the gist of it. Volt 12 invoicing. But there's been a lot of progress there. So
Don't denigrate Marty's numbers.
One last
Denigrate.
question. I'm just going to answer real quick because I do see this a lot. Why 2 of 2 XOR over 2 of 3 multisig? Look, I think if you're holding a large amount of money, learn about multisig. If you're a public figure, learn about multisig. If you're an organization, learn about multisig. I really like using cold cards with Sparrow for multisig specifically. It is a bit more complicated. You have more things that you have to back up. That Sparrow configuration file, that wallet configuration file, you're going to want to back that up. That's not a security risk if someone gets access to it, but it is a privacy risk. They can see all your transactions. Alternatively, you can manually keep the XPubs. But in both of these situations, you're probably looking at a digital backup footprint. With seed XOR, it's nice. It's like you're saving 2 seeds, and you can keep those in redundant places. So it's simpler. It's just a simpler practice, and it kind of comes down to the same trade-off balance as single sig versus multi-sig. And if you were listening last week, I really want to make single sig great again. I think there's a lot of fear mongering around it. Simplicity of single sig is absolutely beautiful. It's very straightforward. It's hard to fuck up. It gives you very strong security guarantees if you back up everything offline. And XOR just makes that backup process a little bit more robust in terms of physical threat, right? If you're worried about someone coming into your house, you just keep one of those seeds in your house and you keep the other seed somewhere else. It's very straightforward, easy to use, easy to audit. You can do the seed XOR calculation actually by hand. It's so simple.
I love this. All-time high. We're knees deep in technical details of the Bitcoin network. It feels like the old rabbit hole recap. Not that we don't do this, but I feel like this is the most technically in-depth rip we've had in a while.
I love all-time high. I love all-time high RHRs. I'm in it for both the tech and the gains.
Yeah.
I think there's many of us that are.
Let's not lie to ourselves. The gains are pretty cool. They're pretty cool, guys.
There's a pep in my step when I wake up to a higher net worth in the morning. In terms of technical stuff during all-time high rips, in an hour, I'm doing a Citadel dispatch on webs of trust and verifiable reputation. If you guys want to join me in the live show, it will be on YouTube, Citadel Dispatch's YouTube, and on sap.stream.
Who are you doing that with?
I'm doing it with this guy named Pip. He's in charge of the Vertex protocol. He's been if you remember in Riga last year, he was on my Web of Trust panel. It's like been his number one focus. And why Webs of Trust, by the way, freaks? Because the internet is going to be filled with AI slop and fake news. And there's basically 2 ways you can try and mitigate that. You can mitigate that with centralized KYC practices and try and identify everyone, which is not very effective. There's more bots on these social platforms than we've ever seen in the past, even though they are doing increased identification checks. Or you can do some kind of permissionless web of trust, verifiable reputation, where different people that you trust are effectively vouching for other people. And this is something that has worked in small physical communities for a long, long time, and we just haven't had a digital version of it. And I think that's the future. I think that's how we mitigate these things. And I think Nostr is going to play a key part in it due to its permissionless identity and social graph layer.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, some digital ID, some pushes towards the digital ID were passed with this big, beautiful bill. We said it right before you got in the office, like this whole border security focus, which I think is a good focus. I think if you're an illegal immigrant that is taking American jobs, you should probably be sent back home to get in line to get in legally. But it is going to be used as a scapegoat for digital ID, where we need you to be digitally identified so we can make sure that you're a legal American citizen when you pass our borders.
Yeah, it's the Patriot Act strategy, which we saw terrorism as the scapegoat, and now they're using illegal immigration as the scapegoat. And I do agree with Marty. We historically have had a very big illegal immigration problem in this country. But when you see ICE officers walking around with masks on, and then pulling up their phone to like scan your face with Palantir, you can start to see how this can become a very slippery slope very quickly.
Yes. So be aware.
Did you see the face scanning app they're using?
No, I did not. Do they legit have a face scanning app?
Yeah, they just pull up their phone. It's like Palantir powered. They just scan your face, and they either find you in the database or they add you to the database at that point. Pretty scary shit.
Do they get WorldCoin at
In my
least?
humble opinion.
Do they get a WorldCoin
This one,
wallet too?
it turns out you can do dystopian face scanning without a shitcoin. Just another functionality that you do not need a shitcoin attached to do.
Hey,
Of course,
we're gonna face scan you, determine that you're an illegal immigrant, send you back across the border, but don't worry, you get the WorldCoin airdrop.
yeah, you get the airdrop. You'll get $10. You'll get $10 in the shitcoin. So you're welcome.
All right, this is great, freaks. Enjoy open water Bitcoin. Don't forget, the fight isn't over. A lot to be done, a lot to be built, a lot going on, but enjoy it. Enjoy time with your family. Build your personal Bitcoin strategic reserve. Be a good person. Hold the door. Hold the door.
Oh, I know we're doing sign-offs, but just real quick, primal.net/marks. Historic flooding in Texas, absolute disaster. We ended last episode, actually, don't be a frugal cunt, hug your families, live in the moment. And then right after that, there was this horrible disaster where a bunch of kids got swept up in it. People lost their children. A lot of property has been damaged. A lot of lives have been changed forever. And Marks is on the ground over there volunteering and helping, and he's accepting donations in Bitcoin. And it's something that I've been focused on for a while. This idea of basically like Bitcoin quick response teams, quick reaction teams, where like no matter where there's a disaster, there's Bitcoiners on the ground. And now we have Nostr to coordinate with each other, and we can send zaps to fund immediately. I think it's a very empowering aspect of freedom technology. And people just like, let's lean into that. Let's be the change we want to see in the world. And when there's chaos, crisis, disaster, there's Bitcoiners there lending a helping hand, helping neighbors, and coordinating globally using the tools.
No, thank you for bringing that up. I was talking to Marks earlier this week, and I mean, it's similar to North Carolina, where they're not in the news cycle anymore, but the sort of cleanup efforts after the hurricanes of last year are still ongoing. He was telling me, like in Kerrville, in parts of Hill Country, the relief is not going to end once the flood recedes. There's going to be a lot of rebuilding that's necessary. He's going to be on the ground. So definitely go find him on Nostr, zap him. If you don't want to do it publicly, what you do is you find him, you find his lightning address, you just send it there if you don't want to sort of have it publicly disclosed.
You can find his account at primal.net/marks, and his lightning address is the reverse of that, marks@primal.net. Yeah. So life is short, life is precious. Help your neighbors. Stay humble, stack sets.
Peace and love, freaks.